Hey guys, VaulSC here, how you going? This bat rep is going to be between Combined Army, Vanilla Combined, and Steel Phalanx. And it's not often that I get to play at a completely different part of town on somebody else's table that I haven't played before, because so many of my games are sort of on the circuit, you know, the locals that I always play with. So this is my buddy James. Had to drive about an hour from where I live, still within the same city. We live in Auckland, where geographically it's very, very sparse, very spread out. A lot of people living here, but this is his setup. He's got a 6x4 table, and obviously we only use the 4x4 section of it to play infiNity, so through here. But it's quite cool because he's got a very sort of dark forest sort of mat, and there's a lot of actual forest, terrain pieces from Warhammer and Age of Sigmar and so on. You can see that he's into 40k and a whole lot of other really awesome stuff. So we're going to be playing Rescue, and I'll be bringing my Combined Army list in for this one. One special thing about this is that I will be running both the Charontid and the Anathaematic. That's a setup that I've had in the past. Didn't work out very well the last time I tried it. We'll see if it goes any better this time around. But the idea is to play it in a limited insertion, sort of compact 10-order format, and just try to use the superiority of your two big boys to really dominate the game. Okay, let's see if I can get a view of the table. Yeah, this will do. Alright, so we'll minimize the cam a bit. Just chuck us up here. And we'll talk about Rescue, the mission. So if we have a quick look through the deployment zones along here. So I'm just going to write CA, this is the Combined Army Deployment Zone. And on this side here, this around about here is where Steel Phalanx are going to be set up. Now, the aim of the game is to go after the 4 civilians on your opponent's side of the table. So there's another short strip here. In fact, let's get another color for this. Get out some yellow. So another little short strip along here. And a short strip along here. So there's a little a gap here which is called the dead zone. And that's the one closest to Combined. And then there's another dead zone along here in this area. And the middle 16-inch gap, or whatever it is, I think 8 inches from the center zone, is an exclusion zone where you can't deploy infiltrators and so forth. You have to deploy everything outside of that gap. It is also a saturation zone, so -1 burst. There's all the shenanigans going on with that kind of play. And thirdly, it's difficult terrain as well. So it's like there's a massive forest in the middle. Only difference between this and a forest is that it doesn't actually subtract 3 from your... It's not a low-vis zone, for example. Having said that, there are actually some forests, which you can see in this templates for them around the battlefield. So there will be some forests in this game. Anyway, if we go to a different color here, there are 4 civilians laid out. So 1, 2, 3, and a 4th one on this side. And the other guy's got 1, 2, 3, and I think a 4th one around about here. And what you've got to try and do is send your forces over there, capture a civilian by passing a whip check to synchronize with it, then coming back to your dead zone and leaving them in this strip here. But also your deployment zone here. So if you can pick up one of their civilians, bring it back to your dead zone, pick up another of their civilians, bring it back to your deployment zone, that's going to start to look like, you know, quite close to maxing out on objective points. As always, there's a classified objective and a HVT as well. Just looking back a bit, these were some photographs of my hidden deployment. I've got a Noctifer with missile launcher set up here and a Anathaematic. Now this is not the lieutenant. Normally I'd play the Mnemonica lieutenant with hacking device, but that role is being reserved for my Charontid this time around, which gives me a chance to test out the Anathaematic with Sepsitor, which is going to be quite fun. So if we just have a look back at this start photo here, the Noctifer is on this little crate area there, getting a pretty good line of fire around to these sides of the table. And the Anathaematic is there just to lay out a nasty surprise if he comes in to try and synchronize with one of these middle dudes here. The Noctifer is obviously helping to protect this one, and the Charontid is going to be way up the corner here later on as a reserve model. Just having a close look in at the deployment zone, got Dr. Worm at the back here connected to a helper bot there. There's an Icadron, Bit and Kiss situated here, a Dacharatse, Witch Soldier, drone, Icadron over here, another Dacharatse, Witch Soldier over here, and you can sort of see my HVTs further out. A little bit closer to the left, you can see another picture of exactly the same thing. So we've got HVTs along the line. Then it's Dat Charontid, Ikadron, R-Drone, Dat Charontid, Bit and Kiss, and Dr. Worm. My opponent is running Alki, or whatever she's called, the Thorakite link leader. Very well painted, I must say. He's got a walker in the forest on the right-hand side of his zone. This model here is a conversion. He's used the Patroclus model, but converted it with the Mark 12. It's going to be standing in for Eudoros, just since he doesn't particularly like the classic Eudoros model. We've got Penthesilea as well. The Spitfire Myrmidon, just a basic chain rifle Myrmidon over here. And this guy over here is one of his HVTs. There's another HVT. He's also landed a couple of AI beacons, net rods over there. Looking from the back side of his table, so we've got AI beacon, AI beacon. This is the Thorakite link team. We've got the 4 civilians. There's the walker in the forest on the right-hand flank. Eudoros with his steel phalanx buddies. He's got another Myrmidon unlinked on top of the building. So this is a steel phalanx list which has got more than 10 orders. So it's not a limited insertion list, which is ironic, going up against me. And there's Thrasimides infiltrating through to the edge of the exclusion zone. My reserve model is this beautiful Charontid with HMG. He's getting a really long clear line down this alleyway. This is a diagonal sort of line, and he's likely to be beyond 32 inches, but he's so good at defending in a saturation zone because the -1 burst to shoot at him. He's got tons of armor. He can just creep back into cover if he takes any hits. So pretty happy with that. Dr. Worm is the data tracker for this one, so I get bonus points if I move Dr. Worm over at the end of the game and grab an objective. Just choosing Dr. Worm because he's 6'4", he's quite fast. Having said that, though, I probably should have rethought that because the difficult terrain effectively renders him 4'4", so not particularly smart on my part. Reserve model for Steel Phalanx is Chusa with his Feuerbach, getting ready to do some serious damage in ARO. Thrasimides is the data tracker, planning on going and picking up some data, some civilians, rescuing them. Alright, so we've got a first up move, Impetuous, with Penthesilea moving into the exclusion zone and the difficult terrain zone, which is going to slow her bike down to a 6'6 speed. So she's trying to work her way around through this forest to get to this little corner here. And by just pulling around just enough to see, she'll be able to fire at this Ikadron, which is going to respond with a flash pulse. And if she can completely remove him, she'll be able to attack Bit and Kiss as well eventually. So just going off with the combi rifle. Combi rifle not particularly effective though because only bursts 2. After a couple of rounds of shooting, she does eventually manage to destroy the Ikadron though, and just pulls back behind her little piece of cover. We've got a Specfire smoke grenade from the Steel Phalanx trooper, the Myrmidon behind the building here. Just covering Chusa. He knows that there are no arrows that are able to see Chusa, but he also knows that I've got a lot of hidden deployment, so he's just sort of worried about multiple Noctifers going off on him or something like that. So moves into the smoke cloud before he gets cover. So the smoke is not bad here, just because it gives him a chance to get to cover before he gets involved in any firefights, if you know what I mean. Thrasimides moving forward to take up a better position towards the middle of the table. And he's also rejigging his link team here. So this guy here with the combi rifle unfortunately wants to reposition, but unfortunately he is in line of sight of the big bad Charontid over here. So there is in fact a little bit of a shootout here between these guys. Charontid firing at him with the HG, just one shot, and this guy basically trying to get prone. So unfortunately I did end up losing a wound, I think, from the Charontid after the combi rifle manages to slip a crit through or something like that, or a shot through, so the Charontid having to slink away eventually. Once the HMG comes out, that is. Again, you guys, as you know, when I do these bat reps, I always get a bit hazy. The Charontid does take a wound at some point and slinks away, but I don't think it was because of the combi rifle. The combi rifle does succeed in actually making it prone. Anyway, so here is where that actually happens. So there's a model here, I believe, the HMG that comes around the side and shoots me. Charontid takes a wound, pulls back behind cover. So I did get that part of the story right, at least. Elsewhere, Eudorus and his handy, trusty team of Myrmidons moving forward to Penthesilia's position, just because he feels like he doesn't have enough orders to completely go off and grab a civilian and come back just yet. But if he can wear me down and soften me up a little bit and bring his troops forward, he can start from that forward base and then grab an objective and then pull back. So Myrmidon with Spitfire, moving through, clearing up the Echidron, just so I can't revive him, and hanging out here. With Penthesilia next to him and the link leader on him, of course. So, Dacheratsi moving up, trying to throw a smoke grenade there. This is my turn, so Combined Army turn 1 now. Moving into line of the Myrmidon. Myrmidon is now burst 1 because of the saturation zone, so just trying to throw a smoke grenade there. On the other side of the battlefield, also trying to throw a smoke grenade to try and help out old mate Charontid. I think I managed to whiff the roll at one point here. No, this one did work out alright, so the Charontid moving over and shooting at, well, initially thinking I could shoot at his combi rifle guy, but then I realized he's prone, so not doing that move after all. Instead, activating the Anathaematic. See, the Anathaematic can be seen by by Chooser from a starting position, because he's just sticking past the edge of this line here. But all Chooser can really do is discover, and if he discovers, I get a couple of free plasma shots, which could be the end of him if I get a lucky hit. So he decides just to delay, which is fairly standard. What I'm planning on doing now is moving around here to this spot, and then I'm going to plan on going after the Steel Phalanx. This is the plan here, to get the Sepsitor into action, get the Plasma Gun into action. Now, I just want to say, I know that some of you guys come to watch my YouTube channel and see my videos to learn, more about strategy and to see what the right thing is to do and to watch a player that tends to win. I just want to put that back and say sometimes I deliberately don't do the most effective thing just because I want to sort of make a bit of a game of it and have a bit of fun. So I think probably the wisest course of action is not to do this, but to actually move the Charontid, the Anathaematic to this point here, then reveal, and because the Silhouette 6 was probably visible to Chooser's higher position here, just attack Chooser with, a combination of the Plasma Gun and the Sepsitor and try and remove him. That would be the smarter thing to do, because then the Noctifer is going to be uncontested. Chooser is a very good counter for the Noctifer. So that would be the right play to make, but the Anathaematic going after these guys is just the more fun thing to do. It's a high-risk, high-reward sort of play, and couldn't resist doing that since it was a bit more of a fun game. So moving over here, I'm getting discovered by people down this end and by Chooser. But by the time he makes it over to this point, he's going to be free. Everybody decides to delay anyway, so there's really no problem. Once he gets to this specific location, the box on the second story is going to block line of sight for Chooser, and the Anathaematic is going to be able to go prone and move into his favorite spot here. Here we go, surprise! Anathaematic. Now, this actually isn't as wonderful as it looks, because these guys have ODD, and they have 6 Sensible 2 because they're on a link team. Actually, hang on a second. Are they in a 4-man link? I may have actually got this wrong when I played during the game, so they wouldn't have ignored Surprise Shot. Anyway, I don't know if that made any difference to the dice. So what I'm wanting to do here is hit this guy with a Plasma Gun. It's going to cause an impact template, which is going to splash onto Penthesilia and Eudorus. The unfortunate thing, though, is that I'm up against ODD. So Ballistical 13, +3 for short range, -6 for ODD, hitting on 10s. I've got 3 dice, but it's down to 2 dice because of the saturation zone, very sadly. Now, if the Myrmidon actually just engages me, then I'm throwing away an 80-point model, or even more expensive than that, for basically nothing. So that's why this is not really a sensible play. You're risking too much for too little potential gain. As I'm coming out of camo, of course, he can wait till I do that, and then he can choose whether to dodge or engage or whatever, so I can't Sepsitor straight away. Anyway, the Plasma goes off and achieves absolutely nothing. Luckily, I don't get engaged or anything like that, so he manages to avoid that fate, but no Plasma is inflicted, sadly. What I'm doing now is I'm just pulling back a little bit. Sorry. Take that back. The original Myrmidon on the front row does get burned by the Plasma and dies. So, my bad. He does actually get a kill. Anathaematic now moving prone, pulling backwards a little bit, just so we can get the line of sight of Eudorus only. And the point of this is that Eudorus now has to choose between dodging or hitting me with a nanopulse or shooting or whatever. So he decides to shoot back. So I then nanopulsar him and actually fail to do that because he passes the BTS check. So doing it for a second time because he's smoke grenading now. And luckily, the second time, the Sepsitor does actually affect him. So he is hit by the Sepsitor and controlled, but there's now a smoke grenade in the way. So using a coordinated order that involves Eudorus, and again, this is actually a mistake. I'm very near to the end of my orders here. So using a coordinated order that moves the Anathaematic to a relatively safer spot and uses Eudorus to go into close combat with Penthesilea. I felt this is a mistake because what I should have done is I should have just left Eudorus there and rather than using my order to trade, just leave him as an ARO piece there where my opponent, as soon as he moves Penthesilea, I can actually start AROing and he's got to spend orders killing his own guy effectively. But no, I think I messed this one up as well, and Eudorus goes into close combat with Penthesilea. It's a bit of a toss-up. He's got MA3, whereas she's got Icol. He's got a slight edge in close combat. Decided to go for the swing while the Juicer and the other Anathaematic shoot at me. But sadly fails the close combat there, and Eudorus is destroyed by Penthesilea and the resulting AROs, so nothing really achieved there except, well, I did kill, Eudorus effectively and a Myrmidon for one Anathaematic. Alright, so there's Chusa firing away at his, his fallen comrade, or his corrupted comrade, shall we say. Okay, so over here, it's now Steel Phalanx turn 2. You can see in the distance there's the Anathaematic sticking out behind that area, so he can actually move through with his HMG and start shooting at me. And what that potentially does is it forces me around the cover. So luckily the HMG doesn't completely remove the Anathaematic. I think it does like 1 wound on him, but it certainly shows him who's boss. So he's just moving into cover at least, so he can get a bit of cover against the HMG. What's happening now is he's attempting to spec fire smoke grenade over here with his Myrmidon, but that fails as well and doesn't get the smoke down. Penthesilea wants to get in close combat with him, but as I was demonstrating to my opponent by using this little wooden marker, it's actually quite difficult to get it around the corner, because you've actually got to sort of move the bike to this location here, then this location here, and as you're sort of moving around like this, it's not as quick as just starting your tape measure here and just wrapping it around the corner. So to get 6 inches worth there, and mind you, it is 6 inches because of the difficult terrain zone, you've got to get the entire circular shape around here. So although from here to here it's about 4 inches, and from here to here it's a couple of inches, he's actually got to go a little bit further than this would indicate. Hopefully you guys understand that. We did measure it out and he was about ½ an inch short. So, I mean, he's got to go a couple of inches right around to here where the circular thing would be, then another 4 inches over to here, and it just worked out to be just over, I should say. So Penthesilea in a bit of a shootout with the Anathaematic once more, and is able to wound him, but isn't quite able to kill him just yet. He's out of ammunition for the Sepsitor, by the way, only gets 2 shots with that, otherwise he'd have a go with it for sure. Sepsitor probably a better ARO weapon unless you're using intuitive attack. That is actually how the Anathaematic managed to get Eudorus in that previous firefight. The smoke template did go down, then he used the intuitive attack through the smoke and becomes a whip check, and the Anathaematic has great whip, so that's why that worked out. So Penthesilea shooting at the Anathaematic, who uses Guts to come back here. That does put him in line of fire of the HMG, but the thing is, he's less afraid of the Thorakid HMG because it's down to 4 dice, it's up against Teo Camo, he can just try and dodge, he's got a lot of armor. Whereas if Penthesilea does manage to get into close combat with her monofilament close combat weapon, that could just be the end of him straight away. So that's why I'm trying to avoid Penthesilea more so than the HMG. Alright, so he finally runs out of orders, which I thought was fantastic. So we've got the Dacheratse moving out impetuously now. And I decided, hold up, no, this isn't actually combined army turn. I don't know why I've taken a photo of this specific photo here. I think it's because Penthesilea started shooting at one of my troopers. I think it was Bit and Kiss. So yeah, Penthesilea, sorry, we're a bit premature here. Penthesilea has basically just destroyed Kiss. the G-Sync remote. So that's what's happened there. Now, as he moves forward with Chusa, he's done a coordinated order which has involved Chusa, who's over here, and a Myrmidon who's come out from behind his building there. And I chose now to reveal the Noctifer. The reason why I'm revealing the Noctifer now is that he's not going to be super effective in this game because of the terrain. There's not really any wonderful angles for him. Chusa's a really hard counter to him, but Chusa's even more effective against the Noctifer through the saturation zone when he uses marksmanship level X. Now, because he's committing to a short skill move, he can't use it straight away when I surprise him, and the blast template will potentially pick up the Myrmidon carrying smoke as well. So, as he moves forward with his first short skill, choosing to arrow with the missile, it's going to be like a 12 versus a 14 on a single dice shootout, so pretty risky, but the thing is, it's high reward, and the risk is fairly average here. So, in the long run, I think you can gain from this kind of play, because best case scenario, you pick up the Myrmidon and Chusa, and you've removed a model which threatens your TO camo. And worst case scenario, you just lose one Noctifer who wasn't contributing that much to the game anyway. So that's what I decided to do. Unfortunately for me though, Chusa does win the face-to-face roll. The Noctifer dies, splashed the template onto the Myrmidon successfully, who takes 3 armor saves, but then goes on to tank all 3 armor saves. So, yeah, pretty good for him. Chusa now moving over to the Anathaematic, and does finally get line of sight to him in the end, after putting a smoke grenade here first, thanks to our lucky Myrmidon, and then has a go at shooting at him, but the Anathaematic just barely manages to tank another armor save, and is down to his last wound, so he's bleeding, he's hurt pretty badly, but he is alive. Now it's Combined Army turn 2, so Charontid moving out here, trying to dodge a Chusa, but I believe gets blown up for his trouble. The other guy moving out as well, so I'm moving forward with the Charontid now, because I really need to remove Chusa. That's just very important, otherwise I don't stand much of a chance of winning this game. Luckily though, there's a good spot for him to camp out in, and I'm just avoiding Chusa's line until I can get to this spot here, where he's going to be able to just pull around the wall a bit and fire off at our friend Chusa. So you can sort of see the location here. This blue silhouette marker pictured there is indicative of where Chusa's sitting. Charontid could just move out to where he's beyond the wall, and then move back with the other 2 inches, and just shoot from that particular point where he's overlooking this part of the wall, and there's a bit of a firefight. Unfortunately though, Charontid loses the firefight. Unbelievably, he's hitting on 3 dice on 14, Chusa's firing back 1 dice on 14, Chusa just crits him, and the Charontid is destroyed with the fallback ammunition. This actually happens over 2 distinct rolls, where initially the Charontid shoots, loses, takes some damage, then he moves out, shoots, loses again, and dies. So, as you guys can see, luck, not really a thing for me in this game. Okay, so the Anathaematic, having managed to just avoid Chusa very carefully, comes around here and manages to dodge him somehow. And is trying to shoot Penthesilea. So Penthesilea going for an engage up against the plasma gun. I really have to avoid being engaged because she's better in close combat than me, and she's got a monofilament sword. So Anathaematic trying to blast Penthesilea with his plasma gun, and also try and pick up this Myrmidon over here, but just whiffs his rolls completely and gets engaged. So yeah, not wonderful. Desperately now, because I'm really sort of clutching at the last few straws. Anathaematic trying to beat her in close combat. He's got a small chance of that. If she rolls a very low number and the Anathaematic rolls something fairly average, he might be able to beat her with his close combat weapon. But sadly, doesn't manage to do that, and the monofilament sword crits him straight away, and it's off with his head. So that's sad. Because I've really got nothing left in this limited insertion list. The Noctifer, Charontid, and Anathaematic are all dead. We've got the data tracking Snake just coming around the corner, firing at Penthesilea. She's at long range, she's got ODD, but maybe I can roll a crit with my combi rifle. That doesn't happen, and the Doctor is destroyed. Bit moving around the corner, trying shooting at her with the submachine gun, but doesn't manage to take her out either. So that's sad. She's hit by a return shot, passes an armor save, and fails the guts check, pulls back behind cover. So in the final Steel Phalanx turn, the Tron bike zooms past our friend Candy Double with her pink base here and grabs her and rides off into the sunset with her. And then Thrissimides moves up to our friendly Combined Army HVT, a civilian, picks him up. He's the data tracker. He's heading off to the Steel Phalanx deployment zone as well. And just hides out here with the rest of his Thorakite buddies. In my final turn, the Echidron tries to flash pulse Chusa and gets blown up because Chusa's just really on fire at the moment. Got another Datcher outside moving over here, trying to throw a smoke grenade to defend himself against this Thorakite guy. Needs a 17. He literally attempts this 3 times in a row and rolls above a 17 3 times in a row. And somehow survives. He eventually gets the smoke grenade down. Goes into close... No, he didn't even get it down in this spot. I was just placing it to see what it would be. But despite that, somehow managed to survive the return pistol fire. And goes in to destroy this Thorakite guy in close combat. But I'm out of orders, effectively. This little model here is one of his civilians. And the game ends. So I got well and truly thrashed this game. Just absolutely massacred. It's quite a good experience sometimes to, you know, get that one game out of the way where you just lose every face-to-face roll and you have no luck whatsoever. It's better for that to happen in a casual, friendly environment, not a tournament environment. Sometimes it's me winning the games where every face-to-face roll just goes my way and my opponent can't do anything. infiNity is like that. You just have to accept that. It's also good, you know, to play against somebody who doesn't play as much infiNity as me. Like, I'm playing infiNity every week. I'm studying the game. I'm doing YouTube content. This is a guy who lives a bit of a drive away from us, doesn't get to play as much as we do, so a little bit less experience. So it's quite good to, you know, see him, you know, stomp people occasionally, as he has in my case. So that's really cool as well. Going back through the game, though, I mean, let's just look at it. I mean, all the important stuff, right? So, the Charontid obviously getting wounded. There's obviously the bit where the Anathaematic walks up. I mean, the Datcherites are not managing to get smoked down. This guy getting wounded by the enemy. So the Anathaematic, obviously, he picks up a Myrmidon here, but doesn't splash anybody else. I sort of played this poorly anyway. Smoke grenades goes down, gets a Sepsitor through. I fluffed this up. This is a mistake by me, but Anathaematic generally quite unlucky here. Yeah. Noctifer, I mean, that was a coin flip. I lost that. The Charontid was probably the Charontid, I think, was the most, you know, absolutely epically unlucky thing. I mean, that was one thing I didn't deserve. Anathaematic not destroying Penthesilea in this final sort of, you know, go at it was really unlucky as well. So I really just got the short end of the stick this time around, which is sad, but it's also funny at the same time, and sometimes you have it coming. Whew, all right, hope you guys enjoyed this game. It was a bit of a bloodbath. CA definitely losing this one, but hopefully see you guys again for some more games.